Hello, good sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Hold on, give me 1 second. Create private match. Wait. Online, create private match. Copy URL. Okay. I just sent you a link to the room.
Alrighty.
Share screen. And then preview camera.
1 moment. I'm gonna fix my audio options.
Turn on. Let's see if this works. Where is my camera at? Okay, wonderful. Awesome. There we go. That's what I wanted.
You might need to refocus Chrome for a second.
Oh, is it not? Redo Chrome? Oh, there we
Oh
go.
no, just refocus. Yeah.
Awesome. There we go. And then let me get back into Chrome and pick my peoples. Ladies and germs, welcome to a very, very, very special stream. I have the one, the only, Mr. Paul Weeks, creator of such games as Tough Love Arena, and now his new love and passion, Scramble Heart City, which is one of my favorite tag fighters right now, over the most hyped tag fighter right now, 2XKO. But I love Scramble Heart City way, way more because it has my heart.
Thank you very
So,
much. I'm glad to hear it.
so yeah. So the reason why I wanted to interview you was because um, I was watching Capcom Cup, and I was seeing a lot of players in the top form. They were only choosing like a handful of characters, and my question to myself was, how does a person like Paul create a fighting game where every character could be viable and not left on the chopping room block for something as a major like Evo or Combo Breaker and whatnot? So that was like my first thought in the interview is like getting to know like how do you create a game like this, especially like with tag fighters. We've seen, in tag fighters there's always like the team that everybody kind of plays, or like there's a bunch of characters that people mix and match with tag fighters. And so my question is to you is how are you creating Scramble Heart City to make sure that as much as possible that doesn't happen, even though it most likely will happen, that there will be a few people left, unplayed in like high ranked, competition.
Sure.
But then there's also players or characters that are, casual fan favorites.
Yes. Real quick before I answer, I checked your YouTube stream and I don't think it's showing anything. I think the audio's going
Uh,
through.
Let me see that. Let's go here. It says that I'm live on channel 5, but
Let me just make sure I'm not looking at the wrong thing.
nope.
Yeah, it says your stream is still running. We've paused the preview to save you your resources.
Nope, we look like we're good on my end. It's just
Uh,
not showing it's not showing the gameplay because I'm not I have a I have the Discord call as my main thing right now.
got it. Someone in chat says, yeah, it's just a black screen.
Yeah.
If you look at, okay, just make sure. Hopefully you can hear me. I think I recognize. Yo, Haggis. Also, hello, Gumbo. Happy to see you in chat. So the question, to rephrase and summarize real quick, is just like, I guess effectively, how do you also chat say hi to my little baby boy Pecco, a little cat who's in my lap, who maybe you can't see. But how do you balance a game? How do you make all characters enticing or viable at a high level of competitive play? Is that a fair summary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I can give my hypothesis. I don't want to pretend that I have solved this issue in a way that makes me smarter than Capcom's development team.
Well, it's
My
not just
game
Capcom.
is
It's like everybody. It's Arc
sure,
System
sure, sure.
Works. It's it's NRS. It's everybody. Even the guys that made them fighting herds. There was definitely like characters that weren't played at a high ranked level.
So there's a good Corey video, Corey gaming video about this on balance that makes the common observation that like if you want a perfectly balanced game, then just play nothing but Ryu mirror matches, and that will be perfectly balanced.
Right.
But as soon as you start wanting to add like unique game pieces that have unique options and could do different things in the game, naturally disparities will rise. So this is a hard problem to solve. That said, what usually ooh, I'm getting bad rollbacks on my ad. Let me just check. Can you do me a favor on your end and hit tilde real quick?
Hey, what?
The tilde key. It's the one next to the number 1. So just show me some stuff on your screen that I can use to debug something real quick. Yes. Okay. We're gonna have to remake the room.
Okay.
The joys of doing alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it. Also, happy to talk and also happy to play, but I don't think I can do both at the same time. So
No, you're fine. I guess I'll just lab or something.
I'll talk for now.
It's not out. It's not out just yet. But you know what? We'll just do this. We will do this.
So yes, it's not for sale yet. We're probably not going to come out until the end of the year. But if you want to do us a huge favor, you can wishlist us on Steam. Just search up Scramble Heart City or go to scrambleheart.city. And if you want to play the game, like we're doing right now, we do a free playtest weekend every month, usually around the middle of the month. That goes from Friday morning to Sunday night. Because this is both going to be a Steam game and a browser game, you can just load it up in the browser, no installation. So on Friday morning, we announce in our Discord and our socials, like, here's the URL, go play it, go nuts. People get to try it for a couple of days, and then we take it back down so we can go back to heads down work for a month. We've been doing that since, I want to say, August of last year. It's been going well.
Right.
In addition to whatever like offline events or locals we go to.
And I just put the website in the chat, so everybody has it in the chat. And so, but yeah, so that was my whole like process of like wanting to interview you is like, like he is making one of the greatest tag fighters in a while, in my opinion. So, but I mean, I love how accessible it is because Scramble Heart City, correct me if I'm wrong, it's literally only light, medium, heavy inputs and then down inputs and then neutral specials and basically like Smash or Street Fighter Modern ways of putting in, special moves. And that is only you don't have a forward light or a back light. You just have neutral light and down light, or neutral heavy, neutrals and downs for light, medium, and heavies.
And air. So we say like every normal has 3 versions.
Yeah, and it's just so minimal. And you did the same thing with Tough Love Arena. Like it was very minimal with Tough Love Arena. and I was just like, this is so this is going to be so accessible for so many people. But you have people like Keats, who was a lead on Killer Instinct, just loving this game. Justin Wong praised this game in a video. I mean, and then you have, semi casuals, or I'm mid tier in a casual like tournament level. I mean, I'm nowhere near as like the highest of the guys that are like doing the craziest combos in the game. Like there's so many.
Most of us aren't.
Yeah, there's so many people in the Discord that are just like, oh, I just found this routing, and I'm just like, how? How do you do that? And I found some cool routings, and I've posted it online, and some of them have gotten crazy numbers, which I think is pretty insane. That people are just really vibing with like how this game is.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been very floored and and grateful for the generous praise from people like Keats and Justin Wong and Sajam. It was particularly fun to see us in Will It Kill last month, which thank you to the community members who submitted a clip on our behalf, or it's on the players' behalf. It's not about the developers. But getting to see a pretty stylish book combo and have Save Jam commentate it as Book wave dashes across the stream and hear him go wave 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 was a personal highlight. Yeah, no, I'm thank you. I don't know if there was a question there. Also, I need to ask, what should I call you? Mr. Claw?
Mr. Claw is fine. Yeah.
Else?
Yeah.
Mr. Claw.
But yeah,
I would love to, if you don't mind, circle back to that balance question you asked earlier, which is
yes.
just to say, I think the really core point that makes it a lot easier to balance your game is the more your game leans on and or has very powerful system mechanics. This is, I wouldn't call Third Strike a balanced game. It has a very clear top tier, but you can still see Hugo make top 8 at Evo because the system mechanics are so powerful. If you have the right reads, if you can parry, you can beat anyone. It's a great equalizer. And I think in tag games and just games of this speed, things like push block, things like really fast movement, and things like just the amount of unique situations that can happen and the amount of situational awareness that requires gives a lot of opportunities to equalize, because that becomes like purely a player skill expression point, and it kind of de-emphasizes the characters to a degree. Again, another classic example of an older game like Melee. If you play against a good player, someone who's much better in Melee, they can beat you with the whole cast because you'll just never even touch them, right? They'll just outmaneuver you.
Right.
It doesn't matter that Roy's frame data is worse than Marth's if you can't hit him. And putting your game in that structure and giving it those really broad mechanics, it is a double-edged sword. Like, the downside of doing this is you get a situation like Street Fighter 6 where Drive Rush is really centralizing. It's such a powerful thing that every character can do that I think Street Fighter 6 is a great game, but one of the criticisms people have is that it's just the Drive Rush game. And in fact, characters are stronger or weaker depending on often how well they can exploit Drive Rush because it's so powerful.
Right.
It's an easy way for characters to stand out or to be like immediately bottom half of the game. So it's a double-edged sword. But I think that also that's a great one to point out compared to Third Strike or compared to Melee, where we would call parrying like a defensive mechanic, and let's say melee movement wave dashing as a sort of neutral mechanic. It can go both ways, and Drive Rush being a purely offensive mechanic. I think when you have really powerful neutral and defensive mechanics, it just gives more opportunities for player decision and interaction for the player to beat the matchup as opposed to the character having to do it. Whereas when you over-centralize offensive mechanics like Drive Rush or like Grand Blue, Dashing Light, or something like that, that can have the risk of sort of homogenizing the experience.
Right.
So that would be my learning of the last couple of years, and something I'll definitely take into a third game if I ever make one, is trying to make sure we repeat that.
And there's something interesting.
And to answer chat, the cat's name is Petco. He's my little baby boy.
There is something interesting to me that you are doing that I've never seen a tag fighter do, and correct me if I'm wrong, because could probably be totally wrong on this, but Scramble Hard City is letting you pick the same character 3 times, and I don't think I've ever seen that in Tag Fighter, but I could be wrong. You're more of the Tag Fighter historian than I am, so you know, so you can correct me on that assumption.
So my inspiration, I owned Marvel's Capcom 2 for the original Xbox. It was a later port that not a lot of copies were made, but they released Marvel's Capcom 2 on Xbox. And in the game, as a way to have single player content, because there wasn't a story, it was just an arcade mode, there was like this in game store using, make believe points. These are old offline games. So every time you play a versus match or play an arcade match, you get like a little bit of in game currency, and you can spend it at the in game store to buy like concept art and to buy character skins. And once you bought and to buy characters, you didn't start with all. I think that game has 56 characters. You only started with like 24, somewhere around half. So very slowly, as you grind through playing the game, you buy more characters, you buy their skins, and once you've bought every character and every skin, every character has like one alternate colors, I think. Granted, I could be wrong. This was 20 years ago. Once you got to this really like end game state, and you had bought all these additional colors for every character, such that they had 6 colors, because by default I think they had 4. You could then pick the same character, only at that state. And so that I think the logic was both a reward for grinding through arcade or playing a million versus matches, and also the logic of once you have enough skins, then you can play a team of three Cyclops versus 3 Cyclops, because you have access to all 6 unique palettes that you would need. And I was terrible at this game. I didn't know how to play fighting games until Street Fighter 4. I loved them, but I had no idea what I was doing. I would just play against the CPU for hours and be excited when I could throw a fireball. Doing launchers into aerial combos was cheating BS that the CPU could do, and I assumed it was like a cheat code. And DP motions were, a trick. They weren't real. But I could do a Hadouken, and I could throw fireballs, and I could shoot lasers with cable. And once I unlocked this, I quickly learned that my favorite team was Triple Akuma, because Akuma was my favorite character. Why not just play 3 of them? And so when I made Tough Love Arena, I was trying to make this game that would be like a gentle on-ramp for people who want to learn fighting games. You come in with that attitude, I want to learn a fighting game, but oh my god, there's so many barriers to entry, and it was about smoothing that ramp. But years into development, I realized like that's not how I played fighting games. That's not how I got into them. I didn't learn fighting games because I picked the easiest one to learn. I picked the one that was cool, and I just hit my head against the wall because it was fun to do, because the game was cool.
Right.
And it was
And
a
that's
really
what
big
I'm doing
priority
right
in
now.
Scramble Heart.
Like,
Perfect.
like
And a
I mean,
big priority in Scramble Heart.
I literally every weekend I will just go lab and just relearn, or like I was like trying to learn Alistair routes. Like I haven't played Alistair in months, and I was like, I'm gonna give Alistair a try. And so I was just like, oh, I can do this with Alistair. I can do this now with Alistair. I was like, oh, this is dope. Like I think I might pick up Alistair again. So yeah, I mean, like I am like you, and I love that we have a training mode that I can just lab, and then when I feel confident enough, I'll be like, "Hey, anybody want to play?" And then they're like, "Yeah." Then I'll get in a match, or I'll play you on a Sunday night, and then see if I can beat you. And so, which was one of my highlights of the year last year, was I got to beat you when you put out Goth, and I was like, I beat Paul in his own game. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you got me.
but yeah, no, and I think that that's great, because like playing all Akuma, like my favorite character right now is Book, and like I've just learned this one cheap routing of a 36 to like 54 hit combo, and so it's like if I die with Book, I can restart with Book. So, and I think that's great for people who just don't want to. I mean, even though, you have the ABC combos, you have the one auto combo for everybody, um, there's so many different variables of what characters can do, and it's great. You have so many I'm trying to think of so many type of characters that are, the rushdown, the zoner, you have each of those type of characters in the game. And so somebody was like, "Oh, well, I'm a zoner or I'm a rushdown in Street Fighter 6. So I'm going to choose this person or this person." And so I think that is great for the one person who just like, "Oh, I just like JP." So I'm gonna find the JP type character. Like my friend Rattlehead, he just plays JP. Like, and he comes from Mortal Kombat. So he's like, JP just feels like the Mortal Kombat type character for me. And so that's great because
That's interesting.
he can play, you know, the one character that fits his play style and he doesn't have to choose.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the biggest problems with the tag fighter subgenre is people are intimidated by having to learn three characters. And I think these games are so beautiful and interesting once you do get to that point because they introduce an element of deck building that, again, is another layer of like player expression. Um, there's so many good Ryus or Manons. Maybe there's not a lot of good Manons, but there's players have characters have their reps. But you would play like Marvel 3, and there was only one guy running around with like Phoenix Wright, Captain America, and Doctor Strange, and that was I Heart Justice, right? Um, it just gives you more opportunities to make interesting decisions outside of the match, and again, like deck build. But that's a big upfront ask. That's really intimidating to people, and it can be frustrating to play a game when you have like one good character and two bad characters. And as soon as your good character dies, you're like, what's the point of even playing anymore?
Right.
So I wanted to try and find a way to bridge that. And I have to acknowledge my peer, the the first big and probably still to date most successful indie fighting game for some definitions of indie, Skullgirls, which was a up to 3v3 tag fighter, but it lets you choose only one character or only two characters using what it called the ratio system, which would then adjust your life totals with your opponents to try and make it like a fair match. So if you had one character versus three, then you'd be really beefy and tanky, and they would be all made of paper. And that worked. And that can be balanced. Excuse me. Um, but and it was smart, and I give a lot of credit to the design team.
I mean,
Um,
it was smart enough for
but
Sonic Fox to be, you know, viable to do Combo Breaker and any other major. Like I think he actually quit playing Mortal Kombat for a couple of months, and he only did Scramble. I mean, he only did that game like for offlines.
oh yeah, Sonic Fox they were amazing as Skullgirls. But my critique of the ratio system is yes, it's a nice on ramp to the game because you only have to learn one character, you only have to play one character. But then you don't have access to any of the tag mechanics. You don't have access to DHCs. You don't have access to assists, and that's such a fundamental part of the game. And I realize it's like a lot to ask of a new player, and it's a huge addition to the mental stack, which is okay. They don't need to engage with it, but to me, that's such a big thing to be missing. I saw a question earlier in chat of like, what's the purpose of balancing a game? I think it's about creating the feeling of fairness. Players don't enjoy playing a game where afterwards they felt like they never had a chance, not because the opponent was better, but because of a fault of the game designer. Um, and even with the ratio system trying to accommodate for like total health and damage values dealt over the match, like not having access to assists is such an important tool. Um, that the whole time that I was playing a character named Double, so not 2v2, but a character named Double. I would play solo double in Skullgirls. I felt like I was missing out. I felt like I was playing suboptimally, uh, and kind of like, what's the point? Because I don't have the ability for an assist to go and hold down neutral for me while I approach, or an assist to help me convert off a straight hit. So my goal, my hope with this system is that yes, you get to play your three books. You get to play the trilogy team, as I like to call it. Um, and you can focus on just learning book and getting really good at book first. But also, the assists are there for you. The DHCs are there for you. The whole like flow of when do I tag characters out so that they can heal, and when does it make sense to bring them back in. You can learn that and get used to that gradually, such that then when you want to learn a new character, that's the only new thing you're learning. You're not also learning tag mechanics at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So you sometimes work out of a collective called Gumbo. It's
I
a
do. They
ink
were in the
like
chat earlier.
a what an indie developer incubator, I guess you could say, maybe, or just workspace. But there is a game that just came out in December called Skate Story, which is very weird and awesome and amazing. And is that how a lot of the developers are? Because you are doing Sam did something very innovative with Skate Story. You're doing something very innovative with Scramble Heart City being a free browser game, having the mechanics just somewhat, I guess you could say, bare bones. And so, like, is does that breed something there at Gumbo where there's just like this, ambiance of just awesomeness and like creativity to where like we're just gonna like, you know, throw something at the wall and see if it sticks.
Uh, that's very flattering. I don't want to speak for Gumbo as an org or speak for Gumbonians. I don't know if some of them would take offense to being called wacky or fun or creative. But I don't want to I don't want to maybe paint an unrealistic expectation that we're like this very strange art collective or something, all trying to really push the envelope. It's what I actually really love about Gumbo compared to some other indie game groups I've had interactions with is I think it's very diverse in its people. And there's Gumbo members in the chat roasting me right now. Um, yeah, you can vote, you can rate my PR later. I think one of its strengths, I think maybe Jonah pointed this out to me, so I'm probably stealing this talking point from him, but it's that we are very unique in our goals and our aims and our skill sets and our backgrounds and our genres. Um, and that is a strength. So I wouldn't expect like the next big game out of Gumbo to necessarily be, this like really uh, artistically interesting, narrative-driven skateboarding game, nor a 2D classical sprite fighting game. Um, but being in this environment and being around these people, I think really it gets you out of an echo chamber in a really good way. I feel like usually that's framed as in a negative light. Both echo chambers and then the people who usually complain about echo chambers are not the greatest people. But yeah, I love it. I love Gumbo so much.
Yeah.
Uh, it
Like
means a lot to me.
I know
It did a
Sam
lot
is
for
in
me.
a right now and on a Steam collective thing. No Clip 2 just did a whole thing about like odd games that are like coming out or that are out right now that just kind of get under the radar just because they're just kind of weird and or just I don't know, just very interesting. They don't know how to categorize it on Steam.
That's awesome. News to
And
me. That's cool.
And so yeah,
Congrats, Sam.
yeah, they No Clip 2 had a whole like showcasing of like all these games. And that was another thing I was like, I wonder if there's more game like the only two games I know that are coming out of Gumbo is Scramble Heart and Skate Story. So I'm just like it's almost like for me like Devolver, like any game Devolver Digital puts out, like I'm all about it. It was like what game is coming out of Gumbo? What game is coming out of like Epitaph, like what band is coming out of Epitaph Records, or what is like back in the 80s, and like what's coming out of Brooklyn? What's the hip hop group coming out of Brooklyn? What's there's like so many cool and diverse like music genres out of New York, and now there's so many cool diverse games coming out of New York. I mean, there's a whole thing like you just did a talk, NYC something, NYC makes games, as I know that's our hashtag. You just did a whole thing like how do you make a fighting
Oh,
game?
IGDA, International Game Developers Association.
Yes.
Yeah, they have branches everywhere, and I gave a talk with the New York branch at this cool gaming bar in Midtown called Coexist.
Yeah. And so like they're always like just showing off things and I'm just like this is great. Like I want to know what other games are coming out of Gumbo? What other games are coming out of New York? Because it was so cool, being able to play. Um, there's, it was so cool to play Scramble Heart City on the same week that Skate Story came out.
Sorry, yeah. The Gumbo Collective YouTube account is in chat saying that there are lots of games coming out of me. My bull runneth over. Um, I would love that. I would love uh for Gumbo to become a known brand that creates those sorts of positive associations like Devolver. Um, uh, it's different, Devolver is to a degree a curator. They're going to release, and that's how they can get a certain consistent editorial uh, sort of track record with games in terms of what they choose to publish. In the
Right.
same way that I'm blanking on the name, but I know there's like a publisher that like focuses on mostly like indie horror games, and so you can trust that like if they're
Bloober
releasing a
Team.
game,
Are you talking about
yeah,
Bloober
it's
Team that
probably a
create?
cool,
Yeah. Like
maybe
I love
it's probably
Bloober
a
Team.
cool indie horror game.
Yeah, they did Layers of Fear. They did Observer. They just came out with this game called Kronos. They're out of Poland. They started out. They're still indie, but yeah, if like for me, yes, if whatever Bloober Team comes out with, I'm I'm all about it. Like they redid Silent Hill 2 as well. But yeah, it's just, I mean
Oh,
I like I just loved like what I mean I started playing fighting games like in the 90s and then stopped and then got back into it um like I don't know 10 years ago again, and with my disability being able to only play with one hand, I literally played Smash Brothers for the first time when Ultimate came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is like really fun and semi easy." And then I played Street Fighter 4 on mobile, and they had basically
oh, was
this.
that a Volt? It's like Street Fighter 4 Volt or something?
No, it was like a just a mobile version of it, but they had basically what modern controls became in 6. And so I was like,
Oh, okay.
why don't they put this, and they actually had that some type of modern controls in Super Street Fighter Turbo what was it?
HD edition.
Revive? No, it was Revive for the Game Boy Advance, and they had some like secret
Oh,
modern type controls as well, which I
I'm
thought
gonna look
were
this up.
really good. Yeah, Revival. It's Super Street Fighter 2 Revival for the GBA.
You're right.
Yes, it's the same thing. There and but yeah, and you can actually, if you have a Netflix account, you can actually play it now. They actually got put in with the whole Netflix gaming, mobile gaming thing. But for me, I was struggling with 2XKO. I was like, I wanted to like 2XKO, I wanted to love 2XKO, but like it was just for me like it was so convoluted. But then I played Scramble Heart City, and it was just such a fresh of breath air for me to be able to like. I don't have to do forward. It's like I don't have to do forward light or backlight. Like I only have these options. Like that's great. Like I don't have to think. Like I can think, but like I
Well,
don't
I wouldn't say that about my game. You Scramble Heart City, you don't have to think.
like I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about like having so many things to learn, I guess you could say.
Sure.
It's just like and I like that about Scramble Hard City. I love how it's drawn. I love, the whole aspect of how it is. And I guess my next question to you is where where do you hope, I mean, of course, because every fighting game or person that's making a fighting game hopes that their game makes it on the main stage at an offline, like Evo, Combo Breaker, and becomes that game for because it doesn't seem like because it's going to be the flavor of the season. Same with Skullgirls and them fighting herds. I don't think there has been an indie fighter that's lasted for years and years. but you will have that moment where you guys are just on fire. You know, you're on the main stage for a couple of seasons, and all that. So when do you think we will be able to see Scramble Heart City on the main stage of an offline? And what is your expectations?
Uh, Good question. I want to also respond to something you said just near the end there in terms of like the accessibility in terms of complexity on onboarding. I was really flattered and kind of surprised. It's really fun to see other people play games and then make assumptions about my intention, and sometimes they're very flattering, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, Paul's really smart because he did this," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I am smart." Um, and one of those was when James Chen, FGC commentator, old school player, tried the game at CEO last year, and Keats was teaching it to him. He remarked on the fact that like, oh, there's like no mechanics, like because every new game, Tokon has 4v4 and all these new concepts. 2xKO has the whole active tag. There's different versions of assists. There's 6 different fuses, and this game doesn't have anything new from a broad system mechanic standpoint since like 15 years ago, right?
Right.
Uh, and at first that made me like a little nervous. I'm like, oh shit, is my game dumb and bad and old? But I think that it was an intentional design decision in terms of like keeping the complexity low, uh, because it's really easy to like make things complex without making them deep. You can just make them complicated, but that doesn't actually make them interesting. And I think that the really flexible systems like the movement and the defense, and then investing a lot of complexity into characters specifically, is what will give my game the sort of runway it needs to remain interesting. But I think it makes a much softer first impression, which I'm very proud of. So I'm really glad you felt that way. I myself have actually been trying to play 2xKO for the first time, like in the past week. Like I played a little bit in the Alpha Labs, and it's been a lot to learn. I'm constantly like forgetting mechanics mid
Yeah.
match. It's
Yeah.
taken me a minute,
And
but
like,
to go ahead.
no, yeah, you're right. It like that was for me. It was like I I went back to it like 2 weeks later and forgot almost everything I've learned. But with a game like Scramble Heart City, I even playing once a month, 1 week in a month. I've only actually played it maybe a couple hours this weekend, but I remember how to play. Like I'm remembering, I'm going back to what you said in a previous interview of his last weekend, where you said, yeah, the auto combos are just like Street Fighter, you're gonna do 20% less damage. So if you learn how to do these combos, then you're gonna hit more damage. It's like I was actually doing those combos, then I started relying on auto. So I went back this weekend. I was like, okay, how do I do this book combo again? Like, and so it was like, oh, it's light, medium, down heavy. So I was just getting that muscle memory back and trying to do these combos and then these other combos that I was just learning. It's okay, how do I do this and to this? And so I was like, okay, Paul has made it simple enough for me to learn how to make combos. And also with the way you have structured the controller system and how you play the game, I think it's going to be very easy for people like the Quad Gods out of New York City to play this game with what they call quad sticks, and it's basically the stick that you move around in your mouth. I saw a guy, I've been watching a guy who plays Tekken 8 with a quad stick, and I went up against a bunch of dudes 2 weekends ago for Able Gamers International Invitational to show the Paralympics committee that esports is a viable thing for the disabled community, and I won gold in Street Fighter 6. Although I only had to play the Quad Gods, who had only been playing Street Fighter 6 for 2 weeks, and I've been, grinding uh, Street Fighter 6 off and on for a whole 12 months at that point. But that's what I love about Scramble Heart because I think it's not, it's I think any um, any person like myself or anybody who has a physical disability, and I know you're going to be working on, helping the blind be able to play this and whatnot, and you are super awesome and be like, yeah, I want to implement this, later on in the roadmap, which is great
I really
because
appreciate you pointing those things out. We don't have a big team to necessarily catch these things, so it's been really helpful. But go on.
but yeah, and I just that's why I love, this one another reason why I love playing Scramble Hard City is because you and your team are just so like, oh yeah, I we could probably do that, before launch, or before early access. We could implement this, and I have been like championing for I've been championing for this game, in every, adaptive Discord I'm in. I'm like, yo, guys, Scramble Heart City is the weekend. Come help me play this game. Give constructive criticism and feedback because the more feedback other people are giving, like, hey, I can play this with a quad stick, or I can play this with this, and I don't understand how to do this or whatever. I think that is going to help because here's the thing that I've realized. I have a couple of friends who literally like they budget every month. Like even myself, I budget like $50 a month of what new game I'm going to buy. Like I budgeted, you know, $30. Actually, um, in December, I literally bought everything I could for Skate Story. I bought the game, I bought the soundtrack, like I bought I bought limited edition vinyl, that they put out that the soundtrack was on, and I had not done that in years. But I know there's a lot of people who are disabled who budget like I'm going to buy this game, day one, early access. Like my buddy, he was like, he bought Slay the Spire 2. He bought Monster Hunter Wilds 3 stories. Like he was just like, I'm gonna buy these games because that's what he does. Like he's at home, you know, and he's like, gaming is everything. And for him, he streams and whatnot, and I love him to death. And there's more people like him and myself that is like, okay, what's the cool game right now? What is that game? And I think Scramble Heart City is going to can be that game for a lot of people that buy in day one. And even with the free in browser, like that is game changer because people can just try it. The whole like, how do I join a lobby? Oh, here's a key. Here's just click on the web, just click on the link, and boom, you're in. That to me is an accessibility thing. Like you don't, like I know you just made it easy, but for people that is when you like, because it's so hard to join a lobby in City of the Wolves right now. But that
Oh, really? I haven't tried.
it's kind of ridiculous on how to join a lobby in City of the Wolves. Street Fighter did a really cool thing with lobbies is you press R1 and it comes up with a thing is like play with your friends. So everybody that's in your friends list and that's on gets a notification, hey, come to the lobby. Here's an invite to the lobby. And so I was just like, dude, you guys are killing it. And then there's like a one button or two buttons to get to the training mode from main screen. And I was like, you guys, like that is helping a lot of people, especially like the blind community is trying to navigate menus. It's like, oh, all I have to do is press X and then, accept twice and then I'm in training mode. Awesome. And I think the way you do online you didn't think about it as an accessibility standpoint. You thought about it as like, oh, this is how I'm going to work around having to have people accept lobbies. But in happenstance, you just made it accessible for a whole group of people.
I thank you. I'm really happy to hear that. We started the like whole online play pattern was established in Tough Love Arena, and I reiterated back then. I wasn't thinking in terms of because accessibility has so many definitions, and originally it was a game designed to be like accessible from a learning perspective. Here's a simplified game. And then I learned that the big strength was, oh, it's actually accessible in terms of being able to access the game perspective, being in a browser, and having this really simple flow to play with your friends. and I'm honestly really happy to learn that we can also potentially be accessible from a like physical perspective, from a how
Access,
easy is it to make the game work for however you play games.
right.
So that is a buzzword that means a lot to me and is very important to me. Accessibility in all definitions, which is that how can I make sure that the most amount of people can have fun with my game and have fun with their friends.
Right.
Um, so thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Uh,
Like, like it's just like that is why I champion for Scramble Heart. Like, like I literally on my Instagram have a highlight. It's just SHC. Like anytime I post about like my reels or when it's playtest, like I'll post the story and I'll put it in my highlights and my HAC highlight. Like there's a dedicated highlight for Scramble Heart City on my Instagram. Like that's how
Thank you.
much I most likely like 85% probably will get a Scramble Heart City tattoo in the next couple of years. I don't know what it's going to be or where it's going to be, but I will probably
Could
most likely have a Scramble Heart City tattoo.
just
And
please do me a favor, consult with our artist Savvy first. We're still changing some character designs. I would hate for you to get a tattoo that
well, that's
is.
why I'm saying like in a couple
I guess that could
years,
be hip. You have the alpha design as a tattoo.
why not?
I
You
will. I
know?
would never request anyone to put permanent ink on their body for the sake of anything I've made, but if you do it, I would love a picture. I'll
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
definitely, definitely. It'll be like yeah, it'll be my icon for the game. And
I thought about getting like a for Tough Love Arena when I think it was like a year or two in. I was thinking about getting like a lemon tattoo somewhere discreet.
nice.
Um, Temporary tattoo. That's an interesting merch idea, Lukeman.
Dude, temporary tattoos for Scramble Heart City for merch? Yeah, I'm all about it. That and stuffies. Like I want a I want a goth and a plain stuffy with like it attached with one of those panda rockets. I and I honestly think it should their name should be Agent 12. Just that's
That's
it looks like a
noted.
character
Noted.
from Codename Kid Next Door. Like I was just like that artwork looks so Cartoon Network from Codename Kids Next Door. Like if Cartoon Network was a thing, honestly, it would be r- crazy interesting if the guys over at Adult Swim like picked up this game and it was like, we'll put it out because it has like that Adult Swim.
My DMs are open.
You know.
Let's
But
face it.
let me ask you this: as an indie developer, you know, you're kind of putting this out on your own. But if you could have a publisher publish Scramble Heart City, what would be your dream publisher?
I think that's an interesting question, but I don't have an answer. I guess I don't know enough about the publisher landscape to make a very informed one. I don't want to just say like blurt out the one that I know. I will say the one that I did actively consider. I don't know if it makes sense for our current release plan, but when I was at Tokyo Game Show last year in October, and I had an opportunity to like try and network with people, I did fantasize about being published by Arc System Works because I
That
know they've been
would
trying to
be
expand their portfolio
in
and expand games outside of the ones that they've developed in house. Uh, and I think I'll double check this, but I think they published Blazing Strike.
bro, if you got on Arc System Works, then you would get to do because they just or I think it's this weekend. They have like an Arc System Works like world tour thing where all of their games as like it's like Capcom Cup but for Arc System Works, but for every game that they have. So that's like another like you basically get to have like the Arc System Works version of Capcom Cup if they put you out. But no, I don't think that is a crazy idea. I honestly could see that as part of their brand because it is anime. It looks like it's anime. You know, it's hand drawn and it's even though it kind of has like Western tones or whatever. But I could see that, and then I could see what I also could see is if Arc System Works did that, then they could get a manga company to help create a like manga that tells the story of Scramble Hard City. We're just spitballing ideas here, guys. Get at
Oh,
Paul. Like
first I need
there's so
to.
much money on the table, Arc System Works and Viz, that you could have through this awesome IP called Scramble Heart City.
Um, sorry, a couple things I need to respond to. One, I checked. Blazing Strike is an indie fighting game that came out about a year ago. It was not Arc System Works. It was Axis.
Axis.
I got that mixed up. So I don't know. I don't know if they've published any external fighting games, but yes, honestly, that was like the one brand that I would love to have on my game. I'd love to have that logo in terms of creating the association of other fighting games I want to be associated with. People in the I want to also say like I feel very much, and we can circle back to the stage question later, but I very feel like I'm following in the footsteps. I hope to follow in the footsteps of Skullgirls and Them is Fighting Herds, which I agree are, I think, the two biggest indie fighting games that have come out in the last 15 years in terms of getting to that point of mainstream FGC recognition, and I'd love to be included in that group. And the team who made Skullgirls went on to make this single player game called Indivisible, and they hired the Japanese animation studio Trigger to do their like opening cinematic, and that to me was like that would be the dream. The dream would to have enough connections and have enough money to go over and commission like Trigger or Madhouse or Bones if they're still around. I'm out of the loop. Spoilers. I used to be really into anime when I was younger. That would be like a dream come true for my kid self to collaborate with one of those studios.
Here's another dream for your kid self that could possibly happen. I just found this out like this week that Acclaim, the publisher, is still publishing games. Like, how crazy would it be for them to put out Scramble Hard City? Like they just put out this game called Basketball Classics for consoles this week, and it's been out since like 2019. Very interesting indie basketball game.
What's this called? Sorry, say again.
It's called Basketball Classics, and it's coming out. It just came out on consoles this week, but it's been out on Steam since 2019. And I literally just found out that Acclaim was putting out games again.
Yeah, what do you know? It's 2019.
But yeah, they just launched it for consoles this week, and so that would be kind of crazy because they haven't had a good a fighting game since Mortal Kombat. You could be in the legacy of that.
Oh, that's right. Did they published Mortal Kombat before they got absorbed by Warner Bros?
Yeah.
However that chain of acquisitions worked.
Yeah. So they published like the first three. They published all of the OG Mortal Kombat games for Nintendo, like for Super Nintendo, Genesis, and 64, all that stuff.
I will say a reason that I am very much keeping the door open for a publisher. To me, the big advantage at this point, because we thankfully, and I've not been shy about this, we have an independent source of funding, so we will definitely be able to get to the end of the year, and assuming we can finish the game in time, get the hard part done. But if we want to have our game on consoles, I think we need a publisher. I think we need, or we would at least need to contract out like a porting company who has access to dev kits and that kind of stuff. And I think that's the blocker. I'm curious. I'll have to look into Them's Fighting Herds like development history and if and when they got on consoles. But I assume like that's the main blocker to sort of getting on stage at a major, because for those who don't know in chat, like for purely logistical reasons, almost all fighting game events are run exclusively off consoles.
Yes.
And so a PC only fighting game is really fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. I mean, but I think honestly, as much as I'm not like a Nintendo person or whatever, I could see Scrabble Hard City on a Switch. Like,
Yeah, no. Console number one would be PlayStation because that's the standard at these events.
right.
But console choice number two would be a Switch 2. I for a minute got really excited about the idea of putting Tough Love Arena on Switch, but it that game, being my first real game, has a lot of very interesting design decisions. One of which is to be very integrated into very specific web technologies. So trying to port it to like natively running in C++, it's not a matter of just like having a JavaScript interpreter or something. Like it would require a pretty serious rewrite because it relies on the DOM right now. And I did spend like a minute looking into the idea of like just doing kind of what we do for Steam, which is we use this technology called Electron that basically just wraps a web browser. So when you play Tough Love Arena on Steam, it opens a open source Chromium tab and then like runs the game off of a little local web server so that the game still runs in a browser and it just works exactly the same. But it doesn't need to download the files from the network, it just downloads them locally. Or
Right.
it loads them from local files. And there's a couple other advantages. So I was thinking about that and I was looking into like Switch applications where I could just mount a emulated browser. But then like the controller support gets all terrible and it's a pipe dream at this point. Knowing that and knowing like how much I kind of screwed myself, we've been very forward thinking with Scramble, and tried to make sure that it is very achievable to port it to console. It's not going to block our release. If the opportunity comes, that'd be great. But like we're planning to release end of the year on Steam. But if we get good sales in those first couple of months, that first we want to make sure we cover our runway because we'd like to do at least 1 year of post-release content and make at least 4 more characters. But then if we have money beyond the required budget for that, I would love to contract out one of these porting companies.
So with
So
that
that would
statement, are we going to have
I
DLC
think we had
characters?
is like 2028.
So are we going to have DLC characters, or are you going to try to do it classically, like how it was back in the day, how you were talking about with MVC2, where you had this in-game currency to unlock characters and skins and stuff like that? Are you going to go that route, or are you going to the modern, like pay, so much for a DLC pack that every other fighting game is doing right now?
So if we were making a Street Fighter, if we were making a not tag game, I think I'd be comfortable charging money for the characters, $5 for each character or something. Maybe a bundle to save with a season pass kind of thing. But because it's a tag fighter, and each individual character is simultaneously kind of like less important to you, but also potentially indispensable. Like my worry is we release the DLC character, and they have like an assist that's really good, and it becomes kind of meta defining, and that becomes very frustrating for players in feeling very pay to win, which is similar to like we released Akuma as DLC as they always do, and he's top tier.
Right. Oh, also speaking of Akuma,
Rotation also. Wait 1 second. Lukeman asked about like rotation. Like this is also why we're not doing a rotation. So the free version of the game, the sort of like demo version that we'll have in browser or for free on Steam, we just give away the whole cast because to me the core appeal and the experience is being able to build your team.
right.
So because of all those reasons, my plan is that the post-release characters would be free. We'd be doing what I think is like the Rivals of Aether 2 model, which is any future future characters are free, and we just continue to monetize like the cosmetics or non-character content like stages. That said, I have flirted with the idea of like maybe $5 for early access. Like all the characters are free after a month or 3 months. So they'd all be free eventually for the sort of long-term health of the game and the ability for people to jump in 2 years from now and be able to, play the whole cast. I'm not ruling that out, but um, that is the plan for post-release characters.
Right.
But we really want to build out the roster.
Right. As you said earlier in the interview, you said that Akuma was your like you did uh, three Akumas. I actually know the guy who voiced Akuma in Street Fighter 6. So if you would like
Oh,
to get Mr. Akuma himself, the voice of Akuma, to voice a character for Scramble Heart City, send me the DM. I will talk to him. I see him every so often. I'm friends with him on Instagram and his lovely lady too. So yeah. So if you would like, and he's anime guy. He's voices a ton of people. He voiced the main person in Overlord, the guy in Overlord. He voices. There's this video or this thing. It's called. Oh gosh, why am I blanking on it? Uh, he is King Bunny in this game about or this anime about um, basically this guy who just plays trash games, and then he plays like the number like the big like open world game that everybody's in. It's like VR, but in V it's like the VR is so into you just lay down and you don't even have like controllers. Like it's all off. It's totally Ready Player 2 type like VR technology in this anime. But yeah, he voices a character in that. He voices a ton of characters.
yeah.
Shagala
I mean,
Frontier.
we'll
Yes, thank you.
we'll talk after stream. I still haven't figured out what I want to do about VO. We've gotten a lot of very nice reels. We've met a lot of really cool people at conventions. Um, I'm trusting that we're probably gonna have to reach out to an agency, even if just to help corral all these people and like have one person that like masters all the audio. Because if these people are like recording in their home, we need to make sure they're all someone can clean them out and EQ them and stuff. That is not in my skill set.
Right.
Um, so I'm always happy to take more names of potential voice actors, and we're probably going to seriously do this in like the summer. I've been putting it off until we've named all the characters because I want to record callouts. I want to have Rosie say like "Get him, Book" and that kind of stuff. And to do that, we need to know all the names ahead of time so that I'm not trying to pull these people back into the studio in 6 months.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we'll talk.
But yeah,
Um,
also one thing I think would be cool, you just put I think it's new in the level, or I just noticed it last month, but there's a girl like spray painting something behind the meters in I think it's a subway station, and I think it would be cool if like at the end the life meters flip around and you see what she tags.
oh, interesting. I mean, that does give me the idea. Like, she should totally do something different, like when the match ends, in the same way that, like, when you play a Street Fighter 2 stage, the guys in the background are just doing this on loop until the end when they go like this.
Hmm.
Um, that character's name is Willow. She is one of Rosie's friends. She has a tag on the alley stage. Mike, our wonderful background illustrator, and also the lead dev on an indie game called Vivarium, has fleshed out this whole like lore of these three women, Rosie, Willow, and I forget the third one's name because she's not in a stage yet. We've got the concept art, but they all do graffiti, and if you look at the alley stage where the graffiti is randomized every time you load the stage up, they all have their own like way of doing tags. Shout outs to Mike for that. It really went above and beyond.
Which is cool because
Um,
it kind of gives it that, you know, that New York feel because that's where, graffiti kind of thrived, and went west. And so that's cool. to have, and I'm all about it. But yeah, I saw her like spray painting above the life bars on the left hand side, and I was like, you know, what would be cool if it like flipped around and you could see what like she tagged the whole life bar as like, you know, Rosie's the best or whatever it is, you know, like it was like you're a loser. I don't
End
know.
game, like end of round stuff, is like a really fun place to inject a lot of polish. Um, you may have noticed like we don't have win poses or win quotes yet. Even when characters like tag in, they just like reuse one of their attack animations as a sort of taunt.
Right,
I think Harmony just does like her light attack, but without spawning the projectile.
right.
Um, that's all stuff we do want to backfill, but we're currently prioritizing gameplay. Uh, but why am I bringing this up? Hold on a second. End of round. Oh, what we have been doing in the meantime, because that kind of work is like a drain on the character animators, and they have higher priority things to do, like drawing our new characters.
Right.
So that's something that they'll circle back to at the end of the year. But Mike, who's focused on the backgrounds and only the backgrounds, we've been having him go in a lot and add these like little interactive elements to every stage. Sometimes it's a looping animation like the girl spray painting. Sometimes it's something that just triggers when like you hit someone with a launcher. Uh, my favorite one that I don't know if people have even caught yet because it's pretty subtle is the estate stage. When you load in, like front and center camera, there's this like Greek god looking statue of a guy holding up a globe, kind of Atlas like, and it's very much supposed to be like Alistair's the self depiction of himself, like this overly macho, handsome. He's almost got like a handsome Squidward face kind of going on, but like looking very regal, just holding up the earth. If you hit someone with a launcher, his facial expression changes. It's very small, but we were just like debugging some issues with that earlier today. I'm really excited to put these little like visual Easter eggs in every stage to make them feel a little bit more alive and a little bit more dynamic.
I think my
So
favorite
I'm
stage
glad
right
the
now,
spray paint girl pointed out to you because yeah,
yeah,
she wasn't in there a couple months ago. She's new.
yeah. My favorite stage right now is Cathedral just because of the music. And I honestly think the cathedral music should be like the main type of I think that has like the best vibe for like menu music. I don't know. I've just been playing the game for so long that I'm just like, okay, let's get a new song here in here. Like I was like, and the cathedral song is like, this is actually I could just like vibe to this for like, you know, forever. Like
I'm glad we do surveys at the end of every playtest,
yes.
and one of the questions is like pick your
Oh
favorite 3 songs out of I think we have 8 now.
yeah.
And last month, like Cathedral demolished. it was it was no contest. Um, it was brand new, and granted, it like has a very different sound to the other ones. So maybe if like you liked a more energetic kind of tone, your vote was split across a few options, and the people who liked the vibe of Cathedral only had Cathedral. But it definitely sent a signal to uh, my composer M and me and Savvy that there is an appetite for different vibes in the music, and M is definitely been getting more experimental going forward. Or I should say, M always wanted to be more experimental, and this has convinced me to
Let that happen.
loosen the leash a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that track is a banger. I literally go to that track like that stage every time now. I'm just like Cathedral, that's my stage. Like I do in like some games, like I'm like, oh, I haven't been to this stage in a while. Like for like in Street Fighter 6, for like maybe a month, all I was playing was Blanca's stage. Like I was just like, I just want to play Blanca's stage. Like I don't know, I just have this, or like I'll just do it on random. I'm like, okay, that's a cool stage to play on today. But yeah, no, like Cathedral is right now my favorite stage. And you said you talked earlier about characters coming out. You are working on a new character right now called Wrath and
Tyrant.
Tyrant. Sorry. When do we think? When is projection that he will be added to the game?
The goal is that he will be playable for the April playtest.
Okay,
So
so next month.
I don't know if I've picked the date for that, but yeah, roughly 4 weeks from now. Because we're signed up to do an official side tournament at Combo Breaker. So we're not on the main stage. We're on the side stage where people play like older games and Sailor Moon S. But we will get top 4 on stream. Very excited for the opportunity. Combo Breaker's been really wonderful to us.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's how a lot that's how Skullgirls had. I remember talking with some of the devs from them fighting herds, and that's where they kind of had their big breakout was that side tournament. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
So our goal is we want to have Tyrant like in a really good shape for that event, which is the end of May. So we are pushing to have him playable by mid-April. He'll definitely have some rough edges. He'll definitely have like some stiffer or reused animation. But this gives us a full month to like kind of like iterate on his gameplay, and because also I'm trying to push the envelope with every character mechanically, and he has some mechanics that I don't want to discuss yet, that could be very swingy in terms of being very strong, or very actually not that good, or very unfun, or too fun. So I'm excited to like get him out in April, get people's reactions, see other people play with him, because that's a big, really helpful thing. I designed these characters with a very specific intention, but that's not how people are going to play them. People are going to play them however they want.
Right.
So we get that out there. We see the April feedback. We iterate. We have another playtest mid-May. That will be kind of like the polish round, and then he'll be super cleaned up for the tournament at the end of May. And nice. I want to also add, we're going to aim to have character 8 for CEO, which is in August.
Nice.
What are you going to say?
No, I remember you showing him off last month in your stream, and he had this like very close, like, I don't know what if it was heavy, medium, or light, but he was like stepping on your toes, and Geese had just come out that week, and so I was like, oh, Geese has that same move, like that's definitely a Geese move, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like, I think that will definitely grab the City of the Wolves or King of Fighters fans, that like, oh my god, like the funny thing is that the new character that they just launched in City of the Wolves is basically a female Alex. Like I was watching
like Street Fighter 3 Alex?
Yes, and Alex just dropped in 6 like this last week. So he's playable in 6.
Yeah, is she also married to her cousin?
I don't know, but she has like a bomber jacket on, how Terry does in Street Fighter 6. But her game, she has like these moves that just resemble Alex, and I'm just like, oh, so they just make a female Alex. And then when you showed off Tyrant last month, I was like, oh, Geese has that same move. I was like, he's gonna be like, I've played Geese, I like that move set, like, I'm gonna have fun with this guy. So that was that's where my brain goes sometimes. But yeah,
that's good to know. That's funny. I know very little about SNK characters, besides the broad strokes, but I know what Geese looks like, and I know that he's the villain.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that at least like independently we arrived at, what would a villain do? Like, what are kind of like brutal moves that a villainous character would do? Definitely not an intentional.
Oh yeah,
reference.
Of course
and
not.
We have some very intentional references in the game, but I guess that's a happy accident.
Oh yeah.
I also just want to explain to chat real quick. The Alex was this character from Street Fighter 3. They finally got released in Street Fighter 6. People are excited about this character they're nostalgic for. And Street Fighter 6 came with the exciting new lore that he's married to his cousin.
Second cousin.
Second cousin.
Yeah.
And it was
it was very unwell received in the West.
There's some great memes on FGC Blue Sky when this happened like a week ago.
I have not. I don't see a lot of FGC on Blue Sky. I see a lot on Twitter, but not on Blue Sky. I guess I'm just following the wrong people. So yeah, but no. I guess we can wrap this up, and I guess my question is, okay, so Tekken 8 and Street Fighter just came out with these patches. Tekken 8 is getting dogpiled on for a horrible patch, and Street Fighter 6 is getting mixed reviews. And you yourself patch like these 3 days every month, and then you repatch, during the week, and you're just figuring things out. Um, as a indie game developer, how are these? How hard is it to to patch things, or put things in that, like, oh, this was plus on block and I have to change it to do something else, or whatever it may be, um, to make the fans kind of, because you listen very well to the fans, because people are like, oh my gosh, they did this, he did that, and some people might be pissed off, but I don't think you're pissing off your fans as much as like Tekken 8 is, or Street Fighter. So, like,
No comment.
and so how, as a person like yourself creating a indie game, you see, you see what internet is flaming, bigger games for. How do you yourself, like, figure out how to make the patches viable, to where somebody like Rooflemonger is going to go, hey, Scrabble Heart City just made this patch, and they're going to break down the characters and, like, well, we thought we were going to get something, but guess what? This patch for this character is actually super cool. Like, this new wake up thing that they can do now is awesome. Or, you can do this now with this character. So, seeing, things like that, like how, Rooflemonger breaks down things,
Yeah,
how do you as the developer now, so early in the game, m- make sure that you're not, I guess, making the same mistakes as like Bandai Namco, uh, more majorly Bandai Namco, I guess, in Capcom. And I don't know, I mean, I know that what was it, I know that Skullgirls kind of had like a lull, like they had like some patch, and like people just hated it, from what I've heard from friends. And I think it was like, some, I don't know if it was mechanically or just cosmetically, but just people were just like, oh yeah, like, we're done with Skullgirls. But how do you, like, not make the same mistakes as, every other fighting game in, like, making patches right now? Like, what are you learning, I
yeah, yeah,
guess?
yeah.
What are you learning from
This
these,
is
like, their experiences, and how are you yourself, like, thinking, like, okay, how do I not make that same mistake?
it's a good question,
I
because
know
we're
it's a
all
hard
asking
a
it,
hard thing
and
not to do.
we're all losing sleep over it. I will say some of my thoughts on patching, um, influenced by other things. Uh, okay, where do I even start? Um, so patching, and we're talking about like gameplay changes, not like patching, like, oh, we added a thing or we fixed a bug, but like balance patching. Um, balance patching is good for your game. It's good for your game because it can potentially increase the balance or allows you to amend design mistakes that you didn't notice or didn't get caught during QA. It can develop the game in a positive direction. And selfishly, as a developer, it's cheap content. Like, the mechanics of doing a balance patch are actually usually very cheap. When you see that Manon's frame data is that she's like -6 instead of -5, that is a one line change of code, pretty much. Uh, so they're very cheap to make in terms of like effort. The
Hmm.
cost is all like the decision making, what to do, and then potentially like play testing. Uh, because a lot of you can change that one number in one line, and that can have like drastic implications for her matchup spread.
Right, and that's what we're doing this weekend.
But yeah, but patches are content, and and because all fighting games now continue to release characters over time, all fighting games are effectively live service games, and you need to keep an active player base, uh, or else there's no one to matchmake with, and it just goes into a death spiral. And you need people playing your game if they're going to pay for the new DLC character or the new skins. So in that mindset, like, as a live service game, patches are good because they drive interest. They will bring players back who maybe were a little bored or maybe very frustrated with with certain characters, and now they at least try it again. They'll play for a little while because maybe it fixes their problems, or maybe they just want to check it out. Um, the rate at which you patch And how you communicate that, I've kind of learned. I feel like there's no right answer. It's been really interesting to watch this with Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering doesn't patch their game per se because its roots are in physical. It's not like Hearthstone where they can patch a card.
Right.
So they ban cards or unban cards, but usually they ban cards. If a card is too strong, it's dominating the metagame, they will ban it. And it is fascinating to watch their decision making, the R&D team at Wizards of the Coast, over like the last 15 years, because they've gone from like, we will just do this once a quarter, like 4 times a year. March 1st, we announce changes to the ban list, if any. And there won't be bannings before, and there won't be bannings again until July 1st or whatever, right? But then that creates situations where right after a ban date, a new card got printed, it was terrible, and the game was miserable for like 3 months. So then they were like, okay, we're going to be more flexible with our banning. But then that created like anxiety around like, oh, this card is good. Should I invest $500 in this new deck if they're just going to ban it tomorrow and I lose money on my game pieces? And then they're like, okay, we'll go back to regular scheduled. And that's like, oh, well, the metagame sucks and they're probably going to ban this in 2 months. So like, I'll just not play the game for 2 months. I'll wait for the bannings. And there's just like no winning. It's been, they flip-flopped a bunch of times. I think for good reasons. It's just like, there's always a bad outcome. You kind of have to like pick your poison, pick your trade-off. The contents of your patch in terms of like buffing or nerfing, you'll often see this set online of like, don't nerf, only buff. Nerfs are definitely perceived more negatively. No one is excited to play a patch where everyone's nerfed, outside of maybe if like a top tier is really dominant, people are excited to see that character nerfed. But it does not thrill people. I learned this firsthand. I was patching Tough Love Arena very heavily when we launched. If you go to about.toughlovearena.com and click on the patch notes button at the top, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and see the God knows how many patches I shipped for that game. And you'll see it was like, for the first like month, I was patching like 5 times a day. But I decided that like I needed to make a big change because walk speed was a little too fast and people were getting a lot of teleporting rollbacks. And I wanted to just generally slow the game down. So I advertised and then released this very big balance patch that I joyfully called the Great Depowering, and I branded it that way. And my goal was to signal that like, this is not me hating your character. We're just gonna re-level everyone. This is like a big sort of reset on how the game works. Turns out no one wants to play the game after it's been through the Great Depowering. That is not exciting. That was a horrible mistake. I learned from it. And especially just because like how much I like branded it, that became like a point with which the community mocked me for like 2 years afterwards. It was just giving me shit for the Great Depowering. Like, oh, is this next patch the Great Empowering? It was a failed experiment, but a useful one. I learned a lot. So nerfs are obviously unpopular, but you also have to be careful because if you talk to people who play DBFZ and like that game, that is a game that basically, by all measures, had a patch. For every patch it got after like the first couple years, it was buffs. It was like buffs for everyone. Everyone got these crazy buffs. Suddenly you could cancel moves into other moves, and characters had like Frieza's standing media punch would reach full screen. That's not an exaggeration. He would just fly all the way across. And the players, the enfranchised players who were still playing the game, who loved that game, hated it because it changed the game that they liked too much. It changed it into like a much higher damage game. It removed a lot of the nuance.
So you experienced what Bandai experienced with Season 2 then?
To my knowledge, from my understanding of watching some of the YouTube think pieces, because I'm not a Tekken player, Bandai had this like broad patch, right, that added a lot of these like homing moves that really harshly countered like sidestepping as a defensive mechanic. In a way that like flattened a lot of rock paper scissors situations, because you now had this homing move that would beat like rock and paper and was also like not punishable. And it just like both made gameplay more stupid and more guessy, these like big swings, and more homogenized. So buffing can go wrong. Buffing can definitely go wrong. I think my big picture takeaway from this is it's about, I guess, setting expectations with user space. The thing that I endlessly find makes my users most unhappy is expectations. I think a lot of the like backlash on 2xKO is because there's an expectation that if this game spent 10 years in development, it should have more than 10 characters.
Right.
Or there's an expectation that like Street Fighter is this huge game, why aren't they patching more than once a year? Or there's an expectation that this problematic character will get nerfed, and then they don't. Or there's the expectation that my weak character will get buffed, and then they don't. Expectations burn you. That was another mistake I made on Tough Love Arena, besides terrible branding decisions, was essentially making promises that I couldn't cash. And they weren't like wild stuff, but it would just be like, oh, we'll add this mechanic by this date, and maybe we're like a month late. And if I had not said anything, and I just released it a month late, it would have been this wonderful surprise. But because I'd established expectations and then failed to meet them, it was perceived not as a cool new thing, but as a belated, overdue failure of a thing.
Right.
So it's a never-ending battle. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. Right now, we benefit from the fact that as a pre-release indie game with a small community, we basically have no expectations from our player base. Our player base is very forgiving. No one's playing our game for money. The stakes are low, and
I
there's
mean,
a general
there could be
that,
some
like,
there could be some money matches that we don't know about, but
sure.
yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, I honestly could see
puts
this.
people.
I could see this as a fun, like, money match type game that people like at offlines would do. Like, I can see hilarities of offline like money matches for Scramble Hard City, which would be amazing. But yes, I understand what you're
I'd
saying.
love to have our version of the historic like first to 15. I think it was Clockwork versus Neo MVC2 set. Anyways, um,
But patches.
yes, patches. Right now, we really benefit from a community that gives us a lot of benefit of the doubt and has a lot of patience. And kind of the more successful you are, the less charitable people are. And I think it's just the nature of scale and audience and getting kind of out of your control and shifting from, oh, I'm just a small bean, I'm just a little guy in his apartment making a game, why are you beating up on me? As opposed to, oh, this is Riot, they're a corporation, they should have infinite money, why aren't they giving me all this stuff? It's difficult. It's like you get punished for succeeding in a way. And this made me really nervous even releasing a paid version of Tough Love Arena, because for the first year, Tough Love Arena was only free. There was no way to pay for it. We didn't have a Steam release yet. And I knew I kind of like got away with a lot of things because it was free. Because if people wanted to complain about bugs or wanted to complain about balance, the ultimate answer was like, I don't owe you anything. Just
Right.
play a different game. But as soon as they give me $10, suddenly the expectations change. And the relationship changes. So these are some of my many thoughts I've had on these kinds of things. I think the things that can help you are just being transparent. Don't give your players the opportunity to assume the worst, right? The more opaque you are about timing, about reasoning, some minority will jump to the least charitable conclusion, and then that can get amplified. So I think transparency mostly can only help you.
Right.
And some people will ignore that anyways. But
Yeah.
it buys a lot of goodwill. It's not that much effort to do in-depth patch notes, that kind of stuff. I think that means a lot. As even like a bystander and now player, I've been very appreciative of the very long blog posts that the 2xKO devs do, explaining their intentions. And I may not always agree with their decisions, but it does so much to sort of like humanize them and help me understand their point of view,
Right.
even if it's not going in a direction I like.
Yeah.
Which sometimes it is, but just hypothetically.
And I appreciate
yes.
a person like Rooflemonger who breaks down the Street Fighter 6 patch notes to where I understand what's really going on. And I think what you experienced with Tough Love Arena in going from a free model into a paid model is the same that the devs in the really awesome indie game called Dwarf Fortress went through, because their game was free to play for years, and um, and then they were like, well, we should, turn this game into, a viable game, and we could make it on Steam. So they had to, because it was all just, I can't remember how to describe how Dwarf Fortress. It was like O's and V's, and it wasn't like very graphical at all. It was very,
The tile sets, yeah.
yeah. So they had to literally create graphics, and their community was amazing and helping them build graphics and sprites and, character models and all this stuff for this really complex kind of game. And so I can understand, after watching. I love No Clip, and I love watching documentaries on, you know video games and whatnot. So I could totally understand where you're coming from and where you went from, of like, how am I going to charge for a game I've been, you know letting people play for free for the longest
Yeah.
time. And yeah, that could be like a daunting decision and a daunting thing to do, especially with a fighting game. You know, like, hey, it's free to play, but now, guys, I'm gonna make this, a paid game. But this still be a free to play type thing, which you're doing with Scramble Heart, which is awesome, um, and that I love. And I mean, I will definitely pay. I would, I think I would pay, for me personally. I would pay $40 for Scramble Heart,
Ooh,
for a
good to know.
one, like for like the one time purchase, and then I would probably spend, every time you throw a cool cosmetic out there for somebody, or a cool thing. Like, I've literally spent $350 on Street Fighter 6 in a year. That includes the game, every DLC, like the DLC things, and I've bought DLCs twice, once for me, once for a friend of mine. And then I literally just spent $13 this last month to get this Elena skin, and I finally paid for premium, whatever, to get an Akuma skin. Like, that was the first time I was like, ooh, I gotta get that Akuma skin.
Yeah,
So
but some of
they
these games you put in so many hours, like I'd be happy to do the same. I unfortunately have to cut you off, Mr.
No, no,
Claw,
no.
because I'm supposed to do a dev stream in 20 minutes, and I need to go eat something first.
I need to eat too
Um,
before
so it has
before I
been
go kick
wonderful talking
kick
with
your
you.
butt.
I really appreciate you having me on.
I thank you
Um,
for, literally, thank you for giving me your time. And like, I was just like, I wonder if he'll let me interview him. But no, literally, thank you for having me, guys. Follow, Paul. Is it at slash Paul Weeks for Twitch?
yeah, all of my personal socials I'll put in chat are M Paul Weeks.
Yes.
Um,
So go follow him. Go follow Scramble Heart City. Join the Discord, and and
Great.
all that. Um, but yes, thank you so much. Go eat. I'm gonna go eat, and then I will see you on your stream, and hopefully I can kick your butt again.
Perfect. We'll play there. Thanks, Mr.
Awesome.
Claw. Thank you
Thank you so
everybody who stopped
much,
by. Have a good night.
guys. Awesome. Thank you, Paul, so much for that. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, everyone from Gumbo and everybody, that came through in the chat. I very much appreciate you guys. I'm sorry I didn't read a lot of the chat. Um, but yeah, I very much appreciate everyone coming through, and you guys are amazing. Please follow, me, at Mr. Claw Tech, or at Mr. Claw, um, for more. And I am definitely going to be playing a lot of Scramble Heart City every month. And if anybody is still in the chat from Gumbo, please, reach out to me. I would love to play your game. I love indie games. They're some of my favorite games. Indie as a genre for music, movies, and gaming are my favorite. So please, please, hit me up. I'm in, the Scrabble Heart City Discord, and Paul knows how to get a hold of me. So if you would, uh, I would love, 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 love to play your game. So yeah, but thank you guys so much for coming out. I am out of here, and I have to get, dinner as well. So until the next time, I will see you guys later.